You turn that on, then I'll.
Yeah, we got to start. Yeah, YouTube is on
See you
now.
later.
Or will be starting momentarily.
I can bow out too this time. That's fine. We'll let some other people in.
Let's see if YouTube is up. Come on. Yeah, we got to start. Yeah, YouTube is on. Okay, there we go. Or there's a little delay, but momentarily. Yeah, we got to start. Yeah, YouTube is on. Or will be starting momentarily. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here eating cherries, so I'd be happy if people want to get in on this. I can drop out and just watch on YouTube.
Okay. Who's leading this one? Is this Brent?
I just threw it up as a a rehash of what we've done before, but I'm I'm happy to be on point for this one. There's Neil.
Oh, Neil making it? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was full when a couple people tried. We've got a little more room there.
Before his presentation said, I was going to present on this, but I really think I've changed my mind. Is that okay? Like,
Hello?
I didn't make any of these decisions. But then on the other hand, it was sometimes scary when we're all sitting there in a room with some piece.
Hey, what's going on?
That only one of them sort of knows.
Someone has YouTube on as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at my tabs. I don't think it's me. Anyone have YouTube on?
Yeah, because YouTube is I think it's like maybe 10 seconds behind.
Yeah.
So if you have them both open, then they're definitely going to be. It's going to be confusing.
I think that might have been my fault.
That's okay. Turn your video on, Neil. Or unless you don't want to.
I'm working on
it. You doing okay?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Surgery. I'm alive.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay, so everybody bowed out, but we haven't had people join. So if a couple more on YouTube want to join in, you can do that, or maybe a couple are still trying. Is Dave joining us?
I don't know. Let me try to get him. He's got all sorts of fun things that he does at the Arl Skills and like Vine and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. My kids love his videos.
I've stolen quite a few of his videos as well.
I'm gonna get Dave. Hopefully, get Dave's attention. I just tweeted at him.
I know he's on Twitter.
Oh, I should add Steven's article to the website too. Let me do that real quick. I tweeted the link. I think so many people were tweeting it. They lost the original thing, but the link is always on the Unconference online resources page. If people get lost, you can always go there. I'm keeping that pretty up to date.
Okay, so my thought for this session was just that we could have sort of a show and tell or a discussion around like what kinds of things that people are using technology-wise in the classroom, because that's always kind of a hot topic in this conference, and it's helpful to get it in in one session so that it doesn't dominate the top, and it hasn't so far dominated the top throughout other sessions. But I mean, let me just. I think someone posted Stephen Gosden's original list, which is now like a couple years old.
Yeah.
and maybe maybe we kind of go from there and see if anybody's got, has had any experience using some of this stuff more recently, and if they want to, suggest other things that they could do or whatever. I don't have an agenda here at all, so.
Well, should we just go by categories? Screencasting, student response, music streaming, sightseeing assessment, social media, and then anything else?
Yeah. Sure. Well, I've done a lot of screencasting in the last little while. I'm actually kind of at a loss now because I ditched my MacBook, and I was using Camtasia for Mac. And now I'm on a Windows machine, and I don't know what I'm going to use.
Isn't there Camtasia for Windows?
There is. It's really expensive, though. It's called Camtasia Studio. For whatever reason, the two apps are like different, and the one for Windows is like $300.
Do they have ScreenFlow for Windows?
I don't think so. I mean, I may just end up biting the bullet and buying Camtasia Studio, but I don't know if anyone else has other solutions.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you can do it with QuickTime and then, or no, because only the Mac QuickTime does the screen capture, doesn't it?
I don't know.
There's like some free stuff you can get with Jing. I remember hearing a few years ago they have like up to 5 minutes or something like that. But,
Right.
Yeah, Jig is a 5-minute max and it's Flash only.
yeah, that's not
I mean, what I wonder if there's a way, like, there must be something that will just do basic screen capture, and then I could like do the rest in like a video editing program.
Well, yeah, I don't do very much in Camtasia myself for editing. I do almost all of it in iMovie.
They have ScreenFlow for Windows for $79.95.
Oh, that's not bad.
No.
I could have Googled that.
I'm the Google master.
Yeah, well, why don't I just do that? That's pretty cheap.
ScreenFlow is a good program. I've used it.
That's what I use.
Yeah. Anybody have any other exciting screencasting that they've been doing lately? I found like I'm basically just designing everything around presentation slides anyway. And like, I don't know. It's almost like as if you don't really need the screen capture thing at all until the very end. Because
Yeah, I mean, usually any video editing software would work if you're just using, slides from PDFs or from like a PowerPoint or something like that.
you can just capture the video on using the PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever.
Right.
Or you can import the slides as images and record audio over it.
Right. That's what I was getting at. I mean, the only reason why I like the screen capture software is, I teach a lot of technology classes, so I like them to see exactly what I'm doing with software and stuff like that. So that's where the screen capture comes in. It's important.
Like, okay, you're going to push this button here and then do this or whatever. Like
Exactly.
Yeah, I use it almost exclusively for demos rather than for communicating content, unless it's like an online-only course. I mean, I try to do as much text-based, reading as I can, just because I've run into like bandwidth accessibility issues. So if it can be done in text, I do it in text. And also, then if they're going to consult it during class, which I really like them to do. I want to have stuff that they can load up. Like, you can't search a video, and you can't just load it up on your screen as a cheat sheet. Whereas, like, for Species Counterpoint, a lot of the things that when I wrote those for Open Music Theory, there's just bullet points of like, these are the new rules for this species, and it can fit on one screen or just scroll back a little bit. So if you get a tablet, you're just okay. There's a demo down at the bottom that you watch once of me doing it in MuseScore or LilyPond or something, but for the most part, I try to reserve video stuff for stuff that really needs video, so that I can minimize the amount of bandwidth my students need, minimize the impact of having an old computer and that kind of thing.
Yeah. On the other hand, I just find them really fun to make.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like in a way, it's sort of nice to kind of organize your thoughts in like little 5-minute chunks like that, and I don't know. I just find that kind of be fun for me personally, and you know, if you can make your own work kind of fun, then why not? You know, then you're gonna get more enjoyment out of it anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, but sometimes it takes longer. I'd rather have fun playing with my kids. I'm opening a Google Doc here. I don't think we have one yet, so
Okay.
I'll get you all a link here in just a sec.
Bryn, have you used Cam Studio?
Cam Studio?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that a Windows one or a Mac one?
It
You have
is
to
a
use
PC
Studio?
one.
Or is it
I'm
something
actually
else?
just looking at the article that I wrote with Greg McCandless, because he's, I guess, a PC guy, and he mentioned that one. So that might be one to look into.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Oh, you know what? I have used this before, a long time ago. I haven't gone back to it in a while, though, but maybe I'll check it out. Maybe it's... I used this before I got a Mac, actually, like way before I even did any... I don't remember why I was using it, but... Yeah, and it's free, too, which is nice.
Right.
Cool.
And he also mentions Screencast-O-Matic. So.
Screencast-O-Matic, that's another one, right.
I think that one has a time limit on it, but yeah, I've heard that's works too.
I think it does too.
Okay.
One click. Yeah, that's nice. Is that one where you just do it? Is it like in the web browser or something like that?
Yeah, Screencast-O-Matic is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean the Pro version is like $15. It's not even that. That's
Yeah.
I mean, it's a subscription, but $15 a year is really not too much. Yeah, whoever's where's that? Do you have that link, Chris? There it is. We can start adding to the doc. I need to get Steven's article up in front of me too.
Yeah, I just put the link in the Google Doc.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, and there's all the bots that just showed up.
Yeah. So yeah, so it seemed like, I mean, he's got a pretty, yeah, Steven has Screencast-O-Matic on the list as well. It seems like we've got a pretty good collection of screencasting software. Should we just go on to the next section? So student response technologies, so things like class response systems, peer instruction, clickers, that kind of thing. So there's iClicker, Learning Catalytics, Nearpod, Socrative, and Turning Technologies. Are there any others people have used, or people have any kinds of positive, negative things to say about their experiences with these ones?
I'm just curious how people would be using them.
Yeah, I use them a couple of ways. I use Learning Catalytics for a semester, and it's really cool for doing like kind of game show style, peppering your class with questions, and then you can do kind of, peer instruction kind of things where you're looking at students' responses, and if they're kind of in the 50-50 area, then you can have them, debate over, the right answer for something, and you can have a learning experience that way.
Cool.
I've also used Socrative, which is a nice, or Socrative, I guess that would be more how you'd say it. That's less. It sort of has fewer bells and whistles, but it's free, and there's no like app to download or anything like that. Yeah, Chris just sent a link to our article from MTO that's got some of this stuff in it.
Got it.
You've got a clickers thing, don't you? Or was that a presentation? I can't remember.
Yeah, about using clickers in real time. That's on the first engaging students.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I was going to say for just another use for these things that I found is just like less. I got a little bit tired of kind of designing. I feel like learning catalytics forced me to kind of design my classes around using it, and I found that kind of irritating. So I ended up really just using it as like a kind of getting the class going activity, where I would just like build a 3 or 4 question thing that they just did as soon as they got to class, and that kind of got them going on the topic of the day or whatever, and then we could kind of, and I could do the sort of peer instruction type stuff based on their responses, but very often it was just kind of as a catalyst for the class and as a way for me to take attendance.
Yeah, I've used that a lot. I've left them and I'm not trying Top Hat because they're both owned or have a relationship with Pearson now, and I don't want my students sending money Pearson's way, which makes me sad because learning catalytics is based on so much research in terms of how to do peer instruction well, and a lot of that research from like physics and calculus and things does translate over to music theory pretty well. So I've been using Socrative lately because it's free, and for a lot of the activities I just have students log in anonymously, so we're not really sharing private data. Sometimes I'll do a quiz or votes on there, but the big downside to Socrative is that it's much more limited. It's really set up for quizzes more than peer instruction modules or for one-off questions. And so, like, one of the things Learning Catalytics is really good at is, you know, in peer instruction, you ask the question of the students right away, you get their responses, and then based on what % gets it right, you make a decision about what you do next in class, whether you just like confirm the right answer or give them a re-explanation of the concept because too many were wrong, or put them into peer discussion. And then after the peer discussion, you take another vote and you see how things improve, and you can do another one. And if you want to do that in Socrative, they either have to be one-off questions that you keep asking, which means it's hard to save the data as you go, or you have to plan a quiz and put the exact number of times you're going to ask the question in ahead of time, because it doesn't have a repeat the question and it will keep saving the data option in it. So I really like Learning Catalytics. It's also got a feature like you can have all the students do a short like set of questions individually, and then once they're done, they and their teammates, they form teams first, and then they do them individually, and then as a team, they're brought up with all the answers that they had put before, and they have to decide if they didn't agree which one is right. So when they agree, they just keep going unless it's wrong, and then once they finally get the right question, they go into the next one, and the points kind of diminish as you go. So it's a nice little race to see who gets done first, who gets the right answer first. You can set up so no points go to the individual round, it's just the team round, but it makes them all, I mean, this is the idea of peer instruction. Everyone has to think through the question themselves first, and then they have some kind of logic in their mind, some kind of preferred answer before they discuss. And Learning Catalytics really supports that well. I just don't like that it's Pearson. Also, it allows short answers, same with Socrative and a lot of the browser-based things. iClicker is just multiple choice. So it's just you have the device, and I think is it 5 buttons, Phil?
They've got text answer now. It's a clunky interface, but yeah. I mean, the standard is 5 for multiple choice, but you can also do free answers on the newer model.
Cool. I'll have to look into the text-based one because that would help, because we're officially iClicker supported, but I don't want them to pay $40 for something that won't let them type in E major.
Yeah, you can do stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, because I've really liked that. It's good for fundamentals recognition quiz because it will auto-grade it, and then you're ready to go. I mean, you could use your LMS for that as well. But then I use it a lot for things like when we're doing form analysis, I'll play them just one module from the middle of the song and say, does this sound like it has the internal characteristics of a verse or a chorus or a bridge or a strophe, that kind of thing. It's really good for like, you play a blues song and you play the instrumental line and say, is this an instrumental strophe or is it an instrumental bridge? Is it strophic or ABA? That's really good because then you see, okay, so 3 of the 4 people in my group think it's one thing, but why? And they get to debate that prompts them, focuses them on the specific differences that they have in their own mind so they can work through that.
The Turning Point stuff also does. I mean, that's what's supported here where I am, and they have a whole system set up, so that's what I've been using. But it also allows for. There's quite a long list of possible responses. So you can say just have numeric response, or you can have type short text, or all these different things. But what I found with that as well, though, is it is still pretty finicky, right? So if they type in E major, and some people just put E, and then some people don't put a space, like it'll count those all as different responses. And so I've kind of gone away from using that, partially because it's also, I'm using this with a class of like 140 students, and so it just like gets really messy. But I've been very happy with the software, and all this peer instruction stuff has worked really well in that context. Cool.
Yeah, I actually contacted Learning Catalytics when I realized that capital E and lowercase e were sometimes I wanted them to be different, and sometimes it didn't matter. And I forget if it was always case sensitive or always case insensitive, but whatever it was debilitating. And I emailed them like, oh yeah, that's an easy feature to add. Yeah, let me get to it. It should be up on Thursday, and that was really nice because like the shop is independent. That was pre-Pearson, but it's still like Pearson owns it, but it's basically one programmer who was in charge of it, who I think is one of Eric Mazur's former grad students, who's kind of taken over the tech side of the business there. But
I was going to say that it seems like these companies have just like exploded in the last few years, and I'm sure that every school at this point probably has an affiliation with someone, whether it's Learning Catalytics or Turning Point or whatever. And to be honest with you, like they're all really close to the same. Like I'm sure everything okay now? Okay, sorry. I was just saying that they're all pretty close to the same, and I think that it's worth just contacting your IT department and ask what they have.
It's also worth looking at the the privacy statements and the end user agreements, because that's where some of the more important differences can come out in terms of what the companies are going to do with the students' data. Because these edtech companies are not beholden to follow FERPA because they don't directly take federal money. So it really is our responsibility to see that things are being used in the right way. Like even Google Apps, they don't mine student data to deliver advertisements targeted to them anymore in the student accounts, but they do mine the data and they use it to guide the products that they make. Having Pearson own now all of my students' data from the previous years, that's just not cool. The kinds of things that they've been doing with that kind of information. And like for example, so Anna's asking, what are the dangers? Well, one of the things Pearson's got in trouble for multiple times in the U.S. and the U.K. is they've developed tools and then lobbied for legal requirements for certain things that their tool will do when no one else has a tool yet. And so they'll dump a bunch of money into developing that kind of or into getting that requirement passed, and then, oh, yeah, and we have this tool and no one else does. So that's just a reason I don't want to support their business at all. But in terms of student data, that really is a decision that the students should be making, not us. It's their intellectual property, and if someone else is going to make money off of it, the students should be part of that decision. Turnitin, for example, the company that owned them, sold them for $75 million, when as a company they were not worth that as a business. And what they were worth, I mean, what was worth that $75 million was all of the students' intellectual property, all of the papers that students had written. These had a market value in mass to the company, and the students were coerced by their institutions or their teachers to send it to the database, which submits it to the database. A couple of years ago, Turnitin had a deal with UMI ProQuest, and all of the ProQuest dissertations were dumped into their database. And then several of us, like Jesse Stommel, made a big stink about it, wrote a couple articles, got a lot of press around that. He and I and some others requested that they be removed from the Turnitin database, and they did ultimately do that. and so there's a lot of companies just using that data to make money without consulting their students, and sometimes in unethical ways. And if we're the ones making decisions about where their data goes, I think that we need to involve the students in that decision, or give them some agency, or have it go somewhere where it's at least not personally identifiable. And that means that the metadata can't be figured out, right? Not just that it doesn't have their name on it, but you can figure out who it is from metadata. But also that someone else isn't making a business off of taking their data without their say.
I'm really surprised that doesn't violate any FERPA laws.
Well, no, because the ed tech companies are not beholden to that. The FERPA is not, this is illegal. FERPA is, you can't do this if you're going to accept federal money for student aid. The ed tech companies don't get that money. They make their money from getting that data and then using that data to direct their business, or even just sell it as their business. Like Turnitin was not, the invention, the software was not worth $75 million. The data was. Selling data they got for free. And so that's their business. Just like with Twitter, like they're selling users to their venture capitalists that are backing them. And so we've got to think of our students and like their role there. And there have been problems with those companies not protecting that data as well as they should as well. And so it's just something to be really careful about.
What about just to turn the conversation slightly, like, and because I want to hear more from Dave, like in classes, and like Dave has these. If you guys don't know, his like great oral skills Vine exercises, which are like these 6-second videos with like oral skills tasks, and I don't know, like what else have you guys? I kind of gave Twitter a shot for my classes, but I just haven't really, I don't know, gone into using it as a tool in teaching, or even, I find like as a way of getting information to my students, even basic information like, hey, I'm having office hours now. Twitter hasn't really been particularly helpful, but I don't know if other people want to chime in here on that sort of thing. Dave, are you still using Vine and oral skills?
Not as much. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right. No, I didn't use it as much last year. It was, I mean, I retweeted and revined some of the little exercises that I had used, but I didn't make new ones. But I am going to try to do it and incorporate it a little more this year, just to have some kind of changes within the class. I can tweet a few of them just so people. Yeah. But basically, it's just little excerpts that I would perform after we learn, say, triplets, a little rhythm in which I would just give the meter and then just taw it out while conducting, just to get it into students' ears. And part of it's because of our student population. A lot of them they don't know how to read music when they get here. We have a lot of music theater majors, so they come from a theater route. So it's anything to get them used to hearing these things and recognizing them as a feature, and then drawing it into like these things that they know already, and then getting it into what does the notation look like. So the first thing, though, is just to understand, oh, that's a triplet, that's what I've heard. Okay, now I can recognize it, here's what it looks like. So it's really meant to just reinforce those things. But also just to follow up on what Bryn said, I tried using Twitter as well, and that just didn't seem as effective either. I guess, I don't know, maybe I didn't have enough students using Twitter that checked it very often. But
like, I think what I wanted it to be was like this sort of organic like meeting place that people would just kind of check into, and I just really don't think that you can make it work without at least initially like forcing everybody to do it.
Yeah, that's where using it in class, like in class time, and getting them used to using that is helpful. Or if they're already there, that's a way that they can get in touch with me. You know, for my online classes, I often tell them Twitter is the fastest way to get a hold of me, and so that's maybe the reason that they use that. On the other hand, I like to be able to like shut my school email off when I go home and not check it until the next morning. You know, so there's you know, advantages and disadvantages, but I think the whole like using it in class so they see the value at the time allows it to spill over a little more. But I don't force it on them, anymore, and some students use it, some students don't. I don't force on my in-person classes anymore. We usually use a Google Doc to do the same kind of things I used to do in Twitter.
I found that to be way more successful in my experience. Like I stole your counterpoint idea, Chris, but we did it in a Google Doc instead of on Twitter, and I found that really helpful. And I think that part of it is like they don't like to be putting stuff out in public like that, and as much as like you should feel comfortable doing that, and probably a good part of their education to sort of learn how to interact with the public in whether it's writing or whatever. I guess Twitter is writing.
Yep.
The fact is, like, they don't want to. If they want to email me if they want something, they have a question about the class. Very often they would rather just email because they're self-conscious about their question or whatever. And so with the Google Doc, I found that like that at least gives the semblance of privacy.
You can also organize it post haste if someone wrote something that's not actually true, someone else can correct it and strike through. I mean, yeah, I like the editing features that Google Doc gives you and organizing features that it gives you, as opposed to Twitter. Although you can storify, so.
I did have really good luck with Twitter in my summer class, and we primarily used it for Twitter essays, which the students really liked, and many of them told me that they wouldn't have understood the material in class that we had gone over as well if they wouldn't have had to have boiled it down into 140 characters. They found it to be a real useful exercise.
Yeah, and you can have them do that without having them sign up for Twitter. You can simply have them submit something that's 140 characters. And then, so I had a single account for the class this year where they would submit, and they were on a rotating basis, who was submitting a blog post, who was submitting a Twitter essay and a paper throughout the term. And so that was we started with them voting on each other's, and then we went to just me saying, oh, here are the good ones that have come up in the last week or so they could see models. And that process, some of them would spend an hour on a single Twitter essay, and some of them, it was going through the process of seeing these things develop over time and seeing what were good models and what weren't. It really helped their writing, because then when they got to the paper, it's like, okay, your thesis statement is your Twitter essay for the whole piece, or for your whole analysis, and then those big points you're going to make throughout in support of that, each of those should be a Twitter essay. And I had them read Jesse's article on Twitter essays and Jesse Stombel's article on breaking grammatical rules in writing, and I had them purposefully break a couple rules in their blog posts of things you couldn't do in print normally, or break a grammatical rule for a purpose. And those kind of things really got them thinking about the kind of words that the kind of things that we're writing, and how to write well, and how to make their claims very succinctly. So I really enjoyed it, but I didn't require them to sign up for accounts if they didn't want to.
Yeah.
I asked my class what they wanted to do, and they were all really gung-ho on Twitter. So, I mean, not all of them had used it before, but everybody wanted to do it. So I told them, sure, well, that's fine with me. And they got really into it. And every time I would say, okay, so let's hop on Twitter, everybody would just like get their phones out, and they would just look around and smile and be like, really? Are we really doing this?
I guess I think part of it too, it's helpful for some to say, let me start again. I like my social media to kind of be a place of community and like lighthearted interaction, and I think that some people feel the same way, and that they get a little bit annoyed by the overtaking of their social media time as like, oh, this is now suddenly professional, or like, this is what I'm going to use for class, or blah, 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 blah. And I guess maybe the solution to that problem is to suggest that people have multiple accounts. Because, like, I don't know, part of me, Like I just enjoy like farting around on Twitter and telling jokes and like just having it be lighthearted and I get a little tired of my Twitter feed being so serious all the time. And I think that making people use it for class might give the same feeling, and I wonder if maybe that's why some people are hesitant to kind of get into it, or maybe that's why I haven't had success doing it.
Yeah, I think. I just lost what I was going to say.
That's okay. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
I would love to see like a place or a piece of software where we could utilize using like Twitter and YouTube and all of these other social media platforms, maybe even some of the clicker content, kind of all together in one place where you could just go to that one resource and it was all there, and you could have your Twitter feed next to your YouTube feed, and we could use it in a much more educational platform, and it was all together in one place.
Yeah, I actually proposed that to somebody who I was talking to, and their company was just not the company to do that. But the issue I've always run into, and I'm a Unix geek, so as much as I love, and I know my students really like going one place to have all of that. Yeah, thanks for that, Megan.
Google Wave.
When you have everything in one place, nothing is as good as it could be. So the Unix philosophy is every little component does one thing really, really well and nothing else. And you assemble all of those things together. But the problem is our students are not those kind of digital users.
Right.
And so I try to limit how many logins I give them, but if I make it just one, there's often something that suffers. So I try to keep the number as low as possible. Well, there's just a weird balance between how many students you have and how often you see them and for how long is a big factor in that. When I had 15 students in a class and I met with them 6 hours a week, it was easy to introduce some extra tools. When I have 35 to 40 to 50 students 2 hours a week, I can't do as much tech support.
Right.
Yeah, I ran into that problem for sure. One semester I was looking over an old syllabus of mine, and it was like, we will have a Google Plus community, and we will have Twitter, and we will have a Learning Catalytics, and we will have blah 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 blah. Like, it was like this laundry list of things, and then it was such a nuisance because, like you said, there were way too many logins, and I think there's really something to be said for kind of simplifying in that way.
I think that's my syllabus for my first semester here, and that was the big negative comment on my evaluations. It's too many logins.
I mean, it's also interesting how some of these tools are things that you do need the students to commit to, that they if you're going to use it throughout the entire like the clickers. I use that in pretty much every class, right? But then there are other like things that that you might just use as a one-off thing, and those kind of involve less investment and stuff. So, like one thing that I wanted to share in this session is, I don't know if people are familiar with Tableau, but it's this website and it does interactive graphs and visualizations, basically. And it's a fun, it's a kind of a cool site. And I used it once in the second year theory class, but it was a very cool. Here, I'll share the link.
There's Tableau.com, Business Intelligence and Analytics.
Yeah, but so Tableau Public is the way that I used it, and then it's free. They don't need anything. They just need a browser and they can sign in. And so what we did, I put this into the classical form thing under Sonata Rondo. We had done a kind of a big unit on Sonata Rondo, and we had particularly looked at these three pieces. And so then I just, as a very brute thing, kind of put into these bar graphs the lengths of the different sections and just divided it out, color-coded it, and then just gave them this and said, play with it. And you can sort the data different ways, you can filter it different ways, and they just spent a little bit of time kind of exploring it and then kind of talk about how these pieces kind of are different from each other, what this, talk about the distance between individual pieces and the form as a kind of genre or as a kind of more abstract thing. And it was like, this tool I used only that one time, but it was great. And it wasn't hard for me to set this up, and it was very easy for them to interact with it, So if you have something where you want them to play with graphs, I would recommend this, but it's never going to be the type of thing that you're using in every class through a semester.
That's cool.
There has been some requests for a discussion of Variations Audio Timeliner, which I have no experience with at all, other than I know what it is.
I use it so much, and it's unusable now because too many of the computers with the latest operating systems can't run it. And it's such a great tool, but
they can if they download the Java patch and stuff like that. It's just a real pain in the butt. But Python, I know Chris, you've done work with Python. Could we just build another one? I mean,
so my buddy with Open Music Library, I talked to him about this problem, and I said if you could link up a recording that's in your catalog with an ability to do this, everyone would use it. And he's looked into it. He said, I think this is doable. Later, in 2016, it would be online. It would link with recordings, and then we could have links to the concepts that go with them. It would be pretty awesome.
For anyone who doesn't know, Variations Audio Timeliner is a way of drawing. You get a recording like an MP3 file, and it allows you to basically do bubble form diagrams that when you play back the recording, it will sort of coincide with the recording. So you're able to kind of diagram form without digitally without any score or anything like that. You can just do it from recording. Yeah, there's the link. I want to throw that out there in case anybody didn't know what it was.
Yeah, the way it works is that you have an audio file, and then you have a text file that goes with it. It's just an XML file that has tags for start times, end times, and colors and layers and labels. And so you end up having this nice, visualized picture of the form, but the actual data is very, very lean and even human readable. And so it's really just a matter of somebody writing, I would hope, a web app that can do that work.
Can't we just get a Kickstarter to get Bill Guerin to just do this today? I'm sure everybody would pitch in money for it.
I mean, it couldn't cost that much. I don't think it would take that much time.
I don't know. Bill, I know that Bill is involved with the program in some way. I don't know exactly if he is anymore, but I know that we've talked to him about it a few times, and he's always just yeah, it's on the back burner or something like that. But maybe if we were
ask him what his price is.
Right, if you're just here's $5,000, can we put it on the front burner, please? Maybe he would do that, or whatever that price is, right? And I'm sure we could probably raise the money.
Yeah, if it were mobile friendly and online, that would be, everybody would use it. A lot of people would use it. Students would enjoy it. Now, I've heard people using things like Dave and Megan mentioned SoundCloud and Audacity, and I've heard someone talk about Sonic Visualizer having these tools, and that's actually something that my buddy mentioned to me, that those plugins are open source and could be potentially put into an online thing. I haven't played around with them to see how close it is to what we would want or need to use for a Sonic Visualizer.
Right.
One thing I just typed in there on the chat is that, as far as I understand, those tools are all great, and they allow you to put in markers with relative ease. But one of the great things about a tool like Variations Audio Timeliner is you can have nested bubbles.
Right.
Whereas most of these other tools just allow you to put in markers, and these markers bear little to no relationship to any other marker.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's exactly why everybody loves VAT.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One of my colleagues here did a final aural skills project where students made a YouTube video, and the audio they just played into whatever was recording them, the audio, and then they would do something in the video. It's I think the way they described it was like sports commentary, and you could like hold up little signs, as the music played, and that that might be something that is maybe a little different than VAT, but might cover some of the same stuff.
The same idea of working from a recording, but as opposed to a score, and analyzing it visually. Yeah, that makes sense to me. There is something really wonderful about VAT and like being able to just say like, here's the MP3 file I want, and as being able to grade it is really easy then, because it's all based off the same coding. I mean, you're right, Megan. Like you could kind of do something similar in a lot of different ways. With YouTube videos and whatnot.
While we're on the topic of YouTube, something that I started here for aural skills classes, instead of doing prepared singing assignments in person or during class or individually, students would just record themselves and send an unlisted YouTube video. And then it's easier to grade because you can just sit and watch. It's a video, so they can conduct if you want them conducting or doing something else with it. And the students here really like it as an alternative because they can try the assignment over and over and over until they have exactly what they want to submit, instead of that kind of one-time high-stress assessment.
I'm somewhat hesitant to mention this since it is a for-profit company, but I'm actually working with a startup where we're trying to build a resource for fundamentals and aural skills type stuff. It's called piccarylearning.com, and I can get people a coupon if people want to know more about this. It's kind of an alternative to Theoria or McGamit, that kind of stuff. And we have some free content and some paid content. So if people are interested in that, I can talk about it. But I just thought I'd throw it up there.
Why not?
Okay. Well, I can do a screen share and show you all a little bit.
Sure.
Let's do that.
Oh.
Right, screen share. Okay. So it's piccarylearning.com. You can see it right here. One of the right now we're using Google or Facebook just to keep track of who you are. All we do is it's just an identifier. Some people don't like that because they don't want any associations with those accounts. We're working on being able to allow you to create your own account. But all it does is just keep your name and email. So we've got, this is the courses page, we've got a bunch of basic written theory, primarily fundamentals courses, to go into the pitch, and it's the lessons are meant to be kind of a little bit more game interaction. So you've got hearts here, lives if you get an answer wrong. You've got the question here and then a response. So this is just a begin thing. We're still working on the formatting so that this would all show into one thing. So the basic format is you get a question about something, and then it's a multiple choice response here. This is the procedure. So you've got the pitch course. We've got all of these are really, we're in development, but we've got written stuff. I'm currently working on building the basic ear training course. So we're using Solfege. In this case, you could hear it's really quiet, but we have a little clip of Do Re Mi, and just trying to orient people to listening to it. I'm working primarily on these fundamentals courses. The premium version, if you have access to premium, which I can give you access, at least for a limited time. We've got a whole bunch of harmonic and melodic dictations, so you can just send your students there as kind of homework practice, where they what they'll have is, in this case, you go in here, Unit 1. Those are structured again with our question, and then in this case you get the melodic dictation up front. So this first question is just, okay, listen to it and take notes, and then when you continue on, there'll be questions about that dictation, so they can make sure that they processed it right. So what was the solfege for the first measure? And they can't hear it again, they have to go solely on what their notes were. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We've got a lot that we're working on and trying to develop it. What's free is all of this, the written material and some of the basic year training stuff. You can't repeat lessons right now. I kind of wish that they would let you repeat lessons in the free version, but you have to have the premium access to be able to repeat lessons or to have access to the dictations. But if you want, I'll end the screen share now. You can email me, and I can get you a coupon so you can have access to the premium and play around with it for a little bit. And I'll put that in the Google Doc. So that's what we're working on right now, if that appeals to anybody.
One of the things that looks intriguing about that is so many of these different tools that we've talked about, some of them earlier, are geared at kind of music theory for amateur musicians, people out there who just want to develop some musical literacy on their own, learn some intervals, learn some fundamentals. And so you don't often see like solfege or kind of scale degree type thinking, or the kinds of things that we often emphasize in undergrad core theory classes. It's kind of often harder to find that, and that's usually where I, for intervals I may direct the students to musictheory.net, but when it comes to thinking about like, what is scale degree 4 in D flat major or something, I have to make all those things myself in a course management software that doesn't look as slick. But that's interesting.
Thanks. Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is make something that's a little bit more pedagogically relevant, that's really user-friendly, and that, yeah, the solfege is something that we personally really believe in, that you can't get through a lot of the free stuff, that we want to implement and get people to practice using and thinking that way.
Yeah, I also know Mike Cuthbert is working on something that uses Music 21 in the background and VexFlow for the rendering, that can do some auto grading as well as just like quick response. I think he's tested some of that stuff in his fundamentals for non-majors class.
Yeah. And we've started using VexFlow as the basis. We've had to do a whole lot of our own versions of that, but we're going to have an element where they can actually input the notation, the dictations into a VexFlow type of format. So we're still working on that, but we'll be incorporating that pretty soon.
Yeah, and I worked with Trinket to develop a really basic, just interactive embeddable notation that uses VexFlow, and we're basing it around note entry being Music 21 tiny notation. And so that's something also that hopefully we can integrate those two. But there are some modules for that in Open Music Theory where you can play back MIDI. You can enter in things like you could put the notes and then say enter in the intervals, and you can share those with people. You can fork an error detection example, and so you just click the remix button, and then it gives you your own copy, and then you can go in and change the notes that are wrong, play it back, and when it's right, then send it off to whoever you want to share it with. We had really good success with that in class for Species. They'd work in partners, kind of play it over and over, sing through some stuff, get it right, share it with me, and I'd say, yeah, this looks good, share it. Or, oh, this has a couple mistakes still. That's good for putting it on the screen and talking through, and we'd all sing it together. So there's some other cool tools like that. Do we need to wind up and then make sure we have whatever we need for tomorrow?
Yeah, I was about to say, before everyone kind of signs off for the day, go ahead and we got a quick survey up on how today went. Just 2 questions, what went well, what do you think could go better? If you have a second, we'd love to hear what you guys thought.
Cool. And I have something to propose for tomorrow, since we keep having a couple more people than fit in this chat, and since we haven't been splitting up into multiple sessions simultaneously, would you guys want to use a different video conferencing software tomorrow called Zoom? I have a pro account to that, and we can fit basically everybody in at once, and the computers don't get quite so hot. I don't know that we can broadcast. We can record it and save it, but we can't broadcast it live that I know of.
We can save it as an MP4 though and upload it later, right, Chris?
Yeah, I can upload it later. Yeah.
So let's just do that. I mean, it works so well.
Yeah, but it's a pretty easy installation. I don't think you need to sign up if I'm the one running all the sessions. So.
Well, it's really simple, guys. I mean, you just click a link and it like downloads things.
Yeah, the only thing is I can't do the first session tomorrow because I've got a thing for my online class that I've got to do. So do you guys want to just do that one in Google Hangouts, because I'll have to do Zoom for that simultaneously, so I can't run 2 sessions at the same time.
What?
Should we look at that for the second session, or just stick with this and then see how many people?
Well, tomorrow morning is video games anyway, right? So.
Yeah.
I think we're not going to be chatting as much as playing games anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we'll meet initially just to kind of get some ideas and get some things going on the kinds of things to think about, and then we'll break to play. And I'm not thinking about anything super in-depth. This is going to focus on tutorials and game learning environments. So I'm thinking like maybe max 15-20 minutes of playthrough for 1, 2, 3 levels in a game. Lawnmower, I apologize if it's loud. And then we'll get back together on video for to discuss findings.
Okay.
So just to clarify, where are we meeting tomorrow morning?
On Google Hangout.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to do Google Hangouts for the morning, and we can post a link on the WordPress site, too, when we get that going.
Okay.
Well, we should put it on the landing page.
Right.
I can do that if you just send me the link to the Hangout. And then Megan has access to the FlipCamp Twitter account, so she can tweet everything as well while I'm doing my class thing for that first session.
Okay.
Cool. No, Dave, there's the schedule is in a Google Doc, which I think is linked from that page. Oh, did I close that page already? I'll make sure before I leave today to tweet out the link.
I got it right now.
You got it?
Great, thank you.
Let me see if it's... Oh yeah, it's linked way down the page on opening session. I'll move that link to the top of our landing page saying, here's the schedule for the day. We'll reconvene on Google Hangouts. So I'll put a thing on that page saying everybody should come back to that page and see information about where we're starting, as well as the Twitter feed. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
It's been fun, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. This has been...
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
If you get a sec, do fill out that survey, and see you guys tomorrow morning.
See you then.
See ya.
Bye.
Oops, stop.